I'm Buster Cherry, where tonight we start with a letter. Dear Buster Cherry, I can't help but notice that since your divorce from your wife back in 2010, your show has become rather dull, old-fashioned and behind with the times. To therefore make your show more youthful, would you consider reviewing my 2002 1.1 Citroen Saxo 5-door? P.S. It's got a sunroof. This is from Matty, 19 years old, in Liverpool. Now you'll be glad to know that as soon as I read that letter, I had it put straight in the bin. But unfortunately, a young producer for Thull Throttle, who doesn't eat meat and buys his clothes from shops like Riverman and Top Island, rescued it out the incinerator and insisted I took young Matthew up on his offer. Welcome to this week's Thull Throttle. The Saxo's predecessor was this, the old AX, which was a mobility scooter that accidentally made it to sale as a car. In order for Citroen to be up with the kids, the AX had to go, so they AX-ED'd it. This was the replacement, and it was a phenomenon. They took the AX name and put an S behind the A and an O in front of the X, making the Saxo. It was funky, more modern and more roomy than the old AX. The young guns loved it, and to sweeten the deal, Citroen offered the Saxo with free insurance at its launch and offered two hot hatch models, the VTR and VTS, both offering over 100 brake horsepower in a compact 1.6 litre engine. But this isn't a VTR. And it isn't a VTS. It's a 1.1. Now you might think that it might be quite slow being a 1.1, and you'd be absolutely right. There's more zhuzh in one of Emma Watson's vibrators. Considering it's French, it does have impeccable manners out here on the road, and there isn't a whiff of garlic to be had here in the cabin. Unfortunately, however, the engine does take after the French dish escargot. It is dreadfully slow. In the back of the Saxo, well, fingers crossed all your mates have small ones, otherwise it's going to be a rather cramped and unsavoury ride for their legs. You really do have to be microscopic to fit in the rear end of the Saxo, something I am not. This boot is a little bit on the small side too. It's bigger than the Ford Fiesta's was at the time, however it's nowhere near big enough for the sort of public indecency acts I plan to commit in here. Even if she did have small legs.
Women's Aid. Until women and children are safe.
The gearbox itself, well, it's rather like nursing a semi. You sort of know it's there, but it doesn't really work, unless you really force it. And the steering, well, it's about as vague as the reasons my wife gave the psychiatrist in favour of our divorce. But this interior harks back to simpler times. It was before Citroen replaced the Saxo with the C3 and its flimsy interior that would fall to pieces if you so much as glanced at it. No, all you really got in this Desire spec model was a sunroof for gazing up at the brutalist high-rises of your council estate, an ashtray and cigarette lighter
for a naughty old spliff in the Safeway's car park after dark. But one feature I find comes in really handy is that you can flash the lights without turning the engine on. This means you can still keep a low profile while summoning the attention of other doggers.
Back in their prime, these little Saxos were heavily modified by their spotty-faced owners. But inside this particular Saxo, unlike my third wife, aesthetically after 17 years, it remains rather the same. But take a little look closer at these aftermarket buttons. As you can see, we've got sat-nav, cruise control, air conditioning. Many of these features were never offered originally by Citroen on the Saxo. This prompted youths to meet up in car parks, rev their engines, wear caps, and discuss what bargains they got in JJB Sports that week. But 17 years after the Citroen Saxo was the dog's bollocks, is it still the chav's choice? Or would you be a pussy to drive one today? To find out, the producers told me to drive to a bustling, out-of-town retail park and await further instruction. You join me here outside a branch of McDonald's on a busy Friday night. Today we're going to see if the Saxo still is the car of choice for the chav. And to make things interesting, the producers have said that I can have a free double cheeseburger every time I spot a chav in a souped-up Saxo. Unfortunately, the cheeseburger in question can't have any burger inside the bun, because it might offend some of the younger producers. And there can't be any cheese on it, because one of our producers is, as you know, vegan. There's also extra points awarded for any hatchbacks I spot from the year 2002. "45 minutes in and there was still no sign of a Saxo, and our search felt about as relevant as pop singer Jessie J. Things were looking bleak, but I did notice a pattern emerging. There's an Astra, there's a Fiat 500, but not the original. There's a Fiesta, young person driving a Fiesta, Fiesta with L plates, Fiesta. It seems then that unlike ITV's talent show The Voice, our search had actually produced something. But that wasn't the end of the story. Apparently I'd made one or two crass comments on set. There's a lovely arse on that one. And two of the female members of staff had threatened to walk out if it wasn't investigated. So the producers told me to wrap up the review as quickly as possible. I'd take her, and I'd take... Oh look, another Ford Fiesta. So, my youthful review and my experiment in the McDonald's car park has led me to my conclusion. It seems today's answer is the Ford Fiesta. No matter though, what's wrong with the youth choosing the Ford Fiesta as a used first car over the Citroen Saxo? It's British owned, British designed and made from British steel.
But British steel's gone bust, hasn't it?
Brexit means Brexit. Join me next week on Thull Throttle, where I discuss the detrimental effects of faulty child seats at a mother and baby unit. Join me then. Unless you've just had an abortion, you'll only make yourself feel worse.